It is Saturday night harness action in Canada. And usually on a Saturday night, you get some Leafs. But no. You have to wait for tomorrow for that. A guy that's not a huge Leaf fan is Randy Waples alongside yours truly, that being Jeff Bratt. And looking forward to the 12-pack of action coming your way. And we're hoping that Mother Nature does cooperate. It started off beautiful last night, and then the rain came in. We had more rain this morning, as Chad mentioned. And now it just looks like it's going to be overcast. But the temperature... Who's supposed to take a dive, like my picks?
Yeah, there you go. That's a starting to show off with the glass half empty.
Why not? Like it better.
No, I mean, a little bit of wind.
Yep.
Coolness out there. Wind, it is going to drop down, but it's not going to drop down to what we've been seeing the last couple of months, so we can deal with it. Overall, I think it's going to be a good night of racing.
We saw some really nice closing quarters on the program yesterday. We saw, obviously, Century Jamila. She is officially the queen of that division right now. And, with Brew Hanover, when he kind of strolled through the New Holland Series, that's a race that is restricted for horses that hadn't won, I think, 135,000 since last year or something like that. So a lot of us were saying, okay, that's one thing. Can he handle the preferred? He crushed, and he took all kinds of money.
He did. I mean, to me, it was a step up.
Yep.
I agree with you. I mean, it had a cap. So you're getting, tougher kind of horses in here, the ones that made 250, the ones that made 300, and he handled them no problem. And it had a new driver to boot.
Yeah.
He had Travis for the first time. Dougie has been sitting behind him, but he got Travis Cullen for the first time. No problems whatsoever. It's going to be tough to stay away from in there.
And if you're wondering why that is, because more often than not, you'll see Dougie drive for Brad Grant. And speaking of that, what do you think of Tarasi? I wasn't as enthusiastic. He was so good 2 weeks ago. Last week he kind of stayed in and he wasn't as good.
Yeah, that's the big thing with him. Just haven't quite seen the depth of Tarasi as, say, what we looked at when he first came up here. I mean, he literally owned the preferred for the longest time. And then, he got shut down and he got brought back. But we just haven't quite seen the kill from Tarasi that we were seeing before. Maybe some of the other ones have just gotten better. Yeah. Maybe Tarasi just needs a few more starts. He did have a win few back. First over, looked like he was going to be beat. Then he gutted it out. So, I mean, the good horse is still there. Just don't see the consistency like before. It was just ones down the page.
So I think it's about 2-5 that the star of the card from last night will be at game one of the playoffs tomorrow for the Toronto Maple Leafs, because Bobby McClure is a huge Toronto Maple Leaf fan. And boy, did he have a night for himself last night, Randy. He won 4 on the program. I think it was 4 for 9 overall. And it all started off with PL Robert G, who got a far more aggressive drive last night.
He did, yes. Deftly switched it up a little bit. Boy, did this horse ever come back looking good. Look at the body on this one crossing the wire. But, I mean, just a really, really nice horse, and now he's got a whole new system of being able to race him. He races great from off the pace. Now he's got leaving ability. Look out. This could be a big year for Mr. Robert.
I saw Joe Sealster won. My tide, I should say, came back to win. And my Mums and Ace had some success as well. It was a really good night for Bobby on the program. And you know what? We kind of thought he was going to have a good night last night. For the first time in a while, we said a driver would have a good night, and we didn't jinx it.
No, I know, it's nice. Isn't that the worst days when you say, oh, yeah, he's going to have a big night tonight, and then it's like you just want to hide from the guy because it's so bad. But, yeah, Bobby definitely lived up to it last night.
There he is. There's a look at it right there.
What a night.
Yeah, and obviously my tide was one of the choices in there, but a 3-2. But you got PL Robert G at a good number, and Bobby's got every right to stick his neck out right there because he did have a good night at the office. And you kind of just hope that the rule continues, because when you get going there for a while, you just want to keep that momentum going. And obviously we saw him with the qualifying report not that long ago. He was driving a lot of powerful horses, I think, for the Stacy outfit that are getting ready to return to the races.
Yeah, well, I mean, he does have probably Sylvia Hanover. She's going to be coming back pretty soon too, he's one thing, the big thing that Bobby is, this is Bobby's time of year. I find anyway, you know what I mean? I think this is when he really gets into it, when they put money up on the top of the page. He reminds me a lot in a way of Condren. Condren just seemed to me like, that's why to me it seemed to me like Steve would start to take winters off, because he just wasn't quite as into it. But boy, you put zeros on the page, his game would just step up. I find Bobby's the same way. He's a great money driver.
Yeah, and you know what? The thing with Bob too is just staying healthy. That's the big thing. If he stays healthy, that goes a long, long way, obviously, right? So hopefully he's got lots of success coming his way, and hopefully you have some success playing the races here with us tonight as well. The one thing that we tend to have that I see at Mohawk more often than not is we'll have formful, and then some wacky result. Formful, wacky result. Like there's no kind of in between, I find. Like look at that Trevor Henry horse yesterday.
Yeah.
Came
There's another Captain Wanya.
Yeah.
There's another one there. You know, I did not use him, and we even talked about him. What was the last thing I said? I don't see him as a win candidate. Boom. Sits last and swoops the field and wins that big money. You know, he said, it seems like it can go formful, but every once in a while, they're going to throw one at you.
If you like paces, this is the place for you. All paces on the program here tonight. And we start off things with a 10-pack that will come your way. We've got Xander coming off a layoff for Gary Murner. I was talking with Gary the other day. He says he has about 25 horses in his barn right now. So he's been busy. He's been busy in the claiming game as well. Captain Hurley right now on the top board odds of 4-5. Looks like that one's sitting on a really good race. And then we've got Rocky J on the inside. Now, Rocky J all of a sudden made it onto your watch list. And talking about going from one extreme to the other, post 10, post 9, now post 1.
Yes, 100%, Jeff, 100%. I'm going to go with Rocky up on top. He's actually going to be my worth a look play tonight. I think that we can grab a price on him because I think a lot of the money is going to be going to the middle of the gate in here. I think that Xander's going to get a lot of support. Gary Murner, Bobby McClure coming off the 2 qualifiers. Misty Cove, he did a bridle change tonight. He's going to go from blind to blinkers tonight for Nicky Gallucci. At some point, he also had the 10-hole in his last start, but at some point, they're going to start to play this guy heavy. And Captain Hurley, who I think is going to be your top pick in here, he's the horse that I'm actually thinking that I'm playing against. I think that he's got a real good opportunity to win tonight, but I think a lot of people, including the fellow sitting beside me, see that as well. So I think he's going to take a lot of play. I'm going to go to the 1-horse Rocky J because I think that we could get a price. I agree with Jeff. I think that this is a huge post-position relief for a horse that's actually been racing quite good, considering how bad that he's been drawing. But let's take a look at this last one from the 9-hole. And, another second in here. That gives him a couple of seconds in his last. He's only had the one race where he missed getting a check, and that's where he finished 6th. But he had the 10-hole that race and made a big move out of there in 26 and change, was at the half in 56. I think it was just a bit much, but he only got beat 3 lengths. Here he comes again. He's not going to have anything to do with Charlie's Wish. Charlie's Wish was absolutely killer in that last, but he's much the best of the rest. And look at the spread on them. He's really the only one that seems to me that has big legs. He's a big kind of a horse. I think he's sitting real close to a win right now. So Rocky J is the way that I'm going to go.
What do you make of the fact? Here's a bit of a quirky stat for you. We have 9 3-year-olds taking on 1 5-year-old, and your horse is the 5-year-old.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll bet you these 3-year-olds probably all have more lifetime starts than my 5-year-old, because he just recently started racing. Last year. So, I mean, he started racing as a 4-year-old and only had the, 14 lifetime starts. So some of these 3-year-olds there, they might have more than him, but I like the way that he progresses. That's what I kind of look for them with Jeff. I just like to see a little. It doesn't have to be a big, step forward like we seen with PL Robert G last night. But if I see improvement, I'll start to track them. And I think he's sitting really close to a big effort.
And some of these 3-year-olds might not even be 3-year-olds yet. They might still be
True.
2, So that's a huge advantage for a horse like that. Let's get to the second now on the program. And I'm going to ask you a rather simple question because this was a question I asked myself when I watched the race last time out. Emmett's buddy, did he lose that race, or did the horse that get him late win the race? Because when you have a 3-length lead, a horse of his quality, I think, should seal the deal.
Yeah, something? I think that in this specific race there, I don't think that he saw Century Komodo.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, I think he was out in front. He was down to the inside, and Century Komodo come at him on the outside of the track, and he come 1,000 on the end of it. And I'm not 100% sure if Emmett even knew that he was out there. Yep. I don't think he heard him. I don't think he saw him. So, maybe Emmett did lose the race. Either way, he's only had the 4 starts back. I think he needed to get tired. Yeah. I think that sometimes with horses, even great horses like him, they need to get tired. They need to get stretched out. They get stronger, and then they come back, and you can race them however you want. If you go back to racing them off of a trip, they just seem like they're that much more powerful after they get, tired right out. So Emmett Buddy is going to be the way that I go, but you got the 6-horse in here, Marigold Magic. Now, I've been using this guy religiously in his last 3 starts, but I have not hit with him yet. how come you are going to him tonight?
You know what? He was not good last time out, but he was really good the race prior to that, because I remember you showed the replay. He was kind of locked in there a little while. So I'm hoping he just had a bad day at the office and just the reclassification. I mean, there's no Brew Hanovers in here. There's no odds on capitalism in this. But I mean, I respect Emmett's buddy a ton. Just to get back to Emmett's buddy, too, I don't know if he's as good having to cut it like he did last time.
I don't think he is.
Yeah.
I think he's a better hunter.
Me too.
You know, I agree with that. I think that there's a lot of great horses out there that are better hunters. I'll throw one at you not that long ago. Dream Fair Eternal. She could win from anywhere. There was no such thing as a bad trip.
Yeah.
But her favorite trip, the one that you could just, you're like, whoa, first over.
Yeah.
She loved being first over. She loved to track horses.
Like, just imagine you're in a race with somebody and you see somebody in front of you. You want to catch that person, right?
Yeah,
I think it's one of those situations too. So race number 2 will wrap up the early double on the program, and a good-looking field there in the second. Let's get to the third now on the program. Mickey 6 really went off form there for a couple of starts. Then was a vet scratch due to sickness, but it looks like maybe she bounced back on her qualifier. So I'm curious to see what she does tonight, Randy. But Alabama Hannah, her form has really tailed off. Can she get back on the beam by simply dropping down in class here tonight?
Well, I think she can. I mean, I did throw her in for second, but I've always said, you know, I have a tendency more to support a horse moving up in class with great form, as opposed to one that should have good form, but now they're moving down, because sometimes it takes a start or two. So I'm going to play against her. I think she's definitely going to be logical, going to take a lot of support. You got her on top. GB's got her on top. Me and Rollis go the same way with Gouda 1. I think that it was a good opportunity that they had when they took her over to Flamborough and got a win under her belt. And it was a good win. They put her in front, you know, made her tired, and nobody could get close to her. She win that one by 3.5, probably shut down. I think it was a good tightener. She comes back middle of the gate and picks up McClure. The replay that we are going to do we have a replay?
We do not have a replay in this
No
race.
replay in this
No.
one? Perfect. Okay. Alabama Hannah, going back to her, she's a Huntsville. And we've seen this so many times, and we've seen it the other night there with Jazzville.
Yep.
These Huntsville, like, I don't know if this is just a little bit of a tick or a tell that they have, but I find, and even the best one that I've seen is the Huntress, that's usually racing out of Tyler Moore's barn. But these ones, I find with them that if you bury them up and you get lucky to get out, my goodness, can they go fast. Now, we seen the other night a horse Trevor Henry had buried up called Jazzville. And Chad was calling that night, and he was calling her locked in. And, I mean, there wouldn't have been 15 steps left in that race when he got her out, and she come and she won that race. They can absolutely turn the jets on from going slow to fast in a half a step. They're an instant action and they're going. So they're a dangerous kind of horse. I see that with Alabama Hannah. I know they like to race her up on the outside. They like to race her up, you know, up to the close and that. I'd love to see somebody just hit the rail with her, keep her close, you know, get away third or fourth, hit the rail with her and see what happens. And I mean, if that second over Journey is looking at you, I wouldn't take it. I'd roll the dice, keep her on the inside just to see what's happened, because it seems like everyone that I see from this breed, going back to Job Hunter too for Jeff Hunt, I just find them extremely dangerous when they're raced that way.
Only the Good Die Young is a horse that you and I are a big fan of, and she's just getting back into the swing of things for Doug High. I think she's going to need a couple of races, but she's got a wicked leg kick too.
She's another one that can just stoke it right up instantly, Yeah, I agree with you. I didn't use her tonight, but she's one that I always seem to keep a good eye on.
Let's get to the fourth now on the card in here. And this fourth race will start off the pick 6, and it will start in the fourth, wrap up in the 9th. We have a field of 9 for you to choose from in here, and they're all kind of trying to get reclassified in here. Like, you look at all these horses, like you got Mama's Sunburn and Legion Sealster. They're coming out of that Jackpot High 5 race. That was Mike Colby 2-step. Stormalong gets into an easier spot. Same with Boston Bound in here. Like, you've got all kinds of horses trying to get into a bit of an easier spot. But I'm going to stick with one, Randy, in here that really got roughed up last time out, and I thought raced great. And Nazare went down the road when being claimed off of the Maneri barn. And then last time out from post 10, I just think B. Stoney got too easy of a trip on that night.
Yeah, and B. Stoney's B. Stoney.
Yeah, exactly.
He's a hard horse to beat.
Yep.
So, you know, if he's getting the trip that he wants, it's going to be tough
Yeah.
to take him down. I agree with you. I got Nazare in for second in here. I thought that was an incredibly good mile coming from the 10 spot. First start for Fellows. He didn't seem to lose anything, moving from Maneri's barn into Fellows, stayed just as deep. I can see him doing the same thing with Travis Cullen. The only thing that scared me a little bit is the step up from the 40 into the optional 50.
Yeah.
Little bit different horses. I mean, he's got a middle of the gate. Everything's going his way, so he should be able to handle it. Myself, I'm going to go with Storm Along in here. I think this is a big drop down for this Greg McNair trainee, moving from the non-winners of 25,000, non-winners of 14,000 into that the jackpot high five that we had in the last start that was stacked with 11 really, really nice horses, and he tried to chop it. Now all of a sudden, boom, he comes to Dougie McNair. He's going to be my top pick, but there was one in here too that I thought was kind of tricky good, and that's the one horse, and this is the replay that we're going to show you tonight. Legion Sealster. I like to show you when I think that there's maybe a bit of a troubled trip, because a lot of people love playing troubled trips. We talked about this last night. I like it too, and I am going to use him in here for fourth. The biggest reason is he draws the rail, and sometimes with the rail they can get themselves into a spot that's just hard to get out of. But here he is with Tyler, and we can see already Tyler's on the side to side way back here. This horse already has some movement, and Tyler's looking for the place to apply it.
Wow.
He's doing some zigzag, and he finally moves him down to the inside, and he still keeps coming forward. And if anything, he's coming forward even stronger. So I thought it was a great race by Legion Sealster, throwing him in there, but I'm going to use him in for fourth because I really, really think Storm Along is going to really benefit from this drop down. To me, he's a horse that is on great form, but now is coming down in class.
Yeah, some great thoughts there on race number 4 in here. We do have 9 of them to choose from. Nazare gets the middle of the gate and is the morning line favorite, but Randy going to take a shot here with Storm Along, who has had a very good year, and all of a sudden Doug McNair shows up on this one for his dad. 5th on the program has 10 of them to line up in here. You know what's amazing about Colby two-step in here? I don't think it's going to be the case here tonight, but look how many times Colby's two-step goes off as the favorite. There are some horses, they could race in the Meadowlands Pace, the North America Cup, and then moving up from an 8,000 claimer, they'll be 2-5.
Yeah.
Just some fans just gravitate to these horses all the time. Now, Colby two-step, he's only won twice in 9 starts this season. He's made a lot of money, but he did deliver last time out.
See, the problem with Colby's two-step, I think, was you're talking about a really deep kind of a horse, right?
Yeah.
He's a sub-50 pacer.
Yep.
He's got over $400,000 put to on his card, so he's pretty deep kind of a horse, right? Comes out of a vicious barn,
Yeah.
Dave Maneri, and to make it even tougher, he was down in cheap classes.
Yeah.
So every week, everybody
Yeah.
kept thinking, this is the week, because I was one of the ones too, and even if I would miss him one week, get frustrated, I'm not playing him this week. I'd be right back to him the next week. Now it seems like he's really starting to kind of come around, but now he gets the 10 hole.
I know.
This is a Randy stay away week on this one. Plus, he's losing Louis. Going to pick up Trevor. That's going to be no issue. Trevor's drove him before. He's going to get along fine with him. But I think the 10 hole and coming up in class could be a little bit of a problem.
Yeah.
I'm going to go 4-5. I think this is another horse that's still on very, very good form for Rene Barassa, but now coming down into this non-winners of 14,000. To me, in poker terms, I call this a ship it, because I think this is an all-in, and give me the money, because I don't even know if they really have to race this race. I know that sounds very cocky, but in this situation, I think that's what we're looking at with 4-5.
And then you have Highland Beach Lover, and I'll tell you, when he brings his A game, he is wicked tough. Now, he does go off the barn change in here, as Gary Murner will take over with this one, so that's one horse we have to touch on as well. And then you have Pacino Hanover. There's no Brew Hanovers or Jabberwockies in this race. So on paper, he should be the horse to beat in this. Both you and I are going to try and beat that one.
Yeah, the only thing that I'm a little bit scary with Pacino is the fact that he hasn't raced since the final of the New Holland.
Yeah.
He missed, a week or two or something. I don't think it's going to be a big difference, but I mean, if I'm looking at one that's coming down from the Preferred that at one time was winning the Preferred, I'm going to go that route. The one that scares me, and I think that he's going to really start to fire again, because he kind of needed to get away from some of them real killers that he was racing against week in and week out, is Jack Panic. I think at some point he is going to start to return to that great, great form, that we've seen a little bit earlier. Only the 12 starts this year, but no money made, but still $30,000 $2,000 made. He's been making a killing with these fourths and fifths, but he's only been missing by like a half a length. JD always has him in a great spot. Sometimes he just doesn't get through. So to me, I would put him under the dangerous category because that last start was really, really a good one.
Good race. That fifth race on the program to wrap up the early pick 5. In the sixth, we have 9 on the pace in here. This is a condition event going for a purse of $17,000. They're changing all kinds of things here with strongman Hanover. And Chad brought this to my attention with this horse back on March the 14th. Because I picked the horse on that day and actually lost to the John Pentland horse that won first time out. This guy is impossible to steer. Ooh. He is a wickedly, like he needs an alignment. Like he's like Randy's red truck. Like going down the 401. I don't know how Tyler's going to do it in here because he is so hard to steer in a race.
Yeah,
like
well, they're making lots of changes on him
are.
tonight. So they're going to go, hear me out on this one. So they're going to take the open off of him and they're going to put a blind bridle on. So, you know, right away they're closing him up. He's not going to be able to see quite as much. Now, sometimes when you close them up, it'll make them a little bit more hotter, you know, as opposed to the open bridle. But to the same effect too, it will make him focus. So technically right away, he should be steering a little bit better. They're going to take the Murphy blind off from the left side. If he's got it on the left, that means that he's probably running in at some point in the mile on the turns or whatever. So now, for whatever reason, they're taking that off. So they're feeling a little bit better, maybe soundness-wise. They've did some vet work on him. They're going to take that off of him. And they're going to take the flip-flops off of him, too. So at one point, he probably had sore feet. Another thing that a horse will do with sore feet, not only do they kind of call it off at the end of the mile, they will wander a little bit. You know, they'll kind of take a little bit of a longer path because they're dancing on these kind of sore feet. So I threw him in for 4th, even before I knew the changes were coming in. I think that there's some ability there. I like that Tyler's going to get a chance behind this guy. But where did you go?
I went towards the first timer, Hello Darkness, and I'm glad you're looking at this qualifier because, you know, at this time of the year, you're going to see more and more horses that have some ability that the barns are high on, that they didn't want to race necessarily during the winter time. And, you know, first time out, finishes second. James drove on that day. JD drove back on April the 11th. The way the barn's going right now, hard to discount any horses coming from this outfit.
Yes, it is. And I mean, in my opinion, he was hidden twice in those qualifiers. So he should be good to go. And you know, but let's take a look at this one. JD gets away 3rd with this big dude. And he looks good out there. You know, he's a shadow play out of Little Dude Starbuck. I haven't seen the little dudes in a while coming out from the BC. But here he comes in the slop. Like I said, big horse. Look at him up alongside of some of these other ones. You know, that's the thing with shadow plays. I find that they look more like this. Big, tall, and very dark, you know, but here he comes. He keeps coming forward. I think JD did a good job with him here. I think this is a good effort on obviously a bad kind of track. He doesn't really have any answers for the horse up in front of him, Wicked Dancer, but at no point is JD really asking him, and now he's gathering him up. On the run out, he even gets a little bit closer to getting up alongside him, as you can see right here. So I think it was a great job done by JD. James has already got one opportunity to take a ride behind him. He comes back tonight. I think that we're looking good, and it looks like we're going to get a sweep here, Jeff.
Yeah, consensus player there in race number 6. I think Nova Blue's the question mark because, you know, he took a lot of money last time on self-destructed.
Yeah. And really don't know why he did it.
And he does it all the time, the same spot.
In the same spot. Yeah. That's scary. Yeah. You know, how do you get over that?
You told a great story about your brother watching a race at Greenwood with No Sex Please. Your brother, for the opening quarter, would like basically not watch the race.
Yeah, he'd hide.
Once they made it through the opening quarter of the race, then he would start watching. That's the same thing with Nova Blue. If he makes it through the first quarter of the race, you're probably in good shape.
You're in good shape because the speed's there, the ability's there. It's just, ooh, a little dicey that first start.
Yeah, exactly. Race number 7 on the program in here is tonight, finally the night for Batter Up Hanover. He's been so consistent, but yet you look at his past performance lines, only 1 win to show there, but then you peel back, you're like, hey, he's won 3 of 9 so far this season. Now, he has been a pop-up veteran in here, so he draws well. Meanwhile, wind blowing does not. Now, the thing about wind blowing is, look what happened once they added Lasix with this horse.
Talk about consistent. Huh? Hey?
Totally different animal.
Completely different. Racing, same racing style, different result.
Just can finish.
Yeah, absolutely. And the way that he's doing it, it seems like each week that he wins, he comes out of it even stronger. And you see him the next week, he comes out onto the track and he's full of himself, you know?
Yeah.
Definitely helping this horse big time. The horse that's just underneath him on there, Gentle on My Mind, I won't be using him. Windblowing's going to be my top pick in here. I didn't use Gentle on My Mind, but he did make my watch list in that last start. I thought it was was a really, really good one. And he's able to jump up and surprise once in a while, too.
Yep.
So Gentle on My Mind. I wouldn't just discount him with the trailer. I think Scotty Young's got a live one here. Batter Up Hanover. Jeff's already brought his name up. He's going to be my second pick in here, but he is the horse that we're going to look at this replay of last week, because I agree with Jeff. I think this was an incredibly good replay. We're not going to show you Windblown because, I mean, you can more or less see what he's doing, you know, going on, and you're going to get to see him in this replay anyway. That's him up in front, and but the one that we're going to show you is the one that McClure is driving, and he's sitting third right now. Ben Hollingsworth, his barn's really, you know, he had a win with Pahokee the other night. He had a win with My Tide last night, so I don't think it's too much to ask Benny Blue Eyes to come up with another win 3 nights in a row. You know, I'd do it for him. So anyway, I mean, again, I thought it was a good effort that he put up. You know, maybe not one of his sterlingly best ones, but it's still a good one. I'm going to throw him in there for second.
And you know what? So in thoroughbred racing, they have things called a handicap. And they have handicaps in this race, too, where, you know, in this game, too, where if you're in for the higher price, you get the outside draw. It almost is like they've handicapped it. I know it wasn't on purpose, but they have handicapped Windblown a little bit with the horse on the outside, right? So in thoroughbred racing, they'll put more weight on a horse.
Yeah, you know what's interesting with this board is we're all good here and we're all good for third.
Yeah. It's second, we're not so sure.
Yeah. Second and fourth, you're on your own.
8th race on the program. What do we do with this one? Oh, I tossed and turned in here because I was torn between 2 horses, Seriously Hanover and Sergeant Slaughter. And eventually I did give the nod here to Sergeant Slaughter. Now tell me, with Seriously Hanover, has he had some bad racing luck as of late? I think the barns had bad luck in general to start off the campaign, but what do you make of the horse's most recent race? I
like him. I liked the last race. We're going to show you that replay in here. I liked actually all of his races. You know, he's a Western Ideal, $92,000 purchase at Harrisburg, 8 years old now. Yeah. But still, he brings some, you know, 48-4. That's a heck of a speed badge, you know what I mean? Even this in this day and age, 48-4. When you get down below 49, you got a nice horse. 21 wins and $284,000 put away. So I think he, you know, what he brings to the table is good. He comes out of a barn that I have huge respect for, and there is no way that Dwayne Marfisi is going to go much longer on the Ophir scale. 0 for 26. That is not this guy. This guy is like part horse. If I had a horse right now, I wouldn't think twice about sending it to him because you're going to get the best of care. So at some point, these horses are going to start winning. I think we're getting closer and closer with Seriously Hanover here. Going to come back to the same class, but I think that, you know, he's in a situation where Trevor hasn't overdone it with him. Now, let's take a look at this last one. 2 down, Trevor did move him to the outside. He did end up pacing 1:53 on a track that they were given 1 second to, but, you know, just made up kind of minimal sort of ground. This start, now you can see where Trevor is way at the back here with the horse with the black shadow. This start, he makes up even more ground. At the head of the lane, they got him off at 6 3/4. He gets beat 3.5, so he makes up 3 lengths. And look at him here, Trevor side by side, nowhere to go with him either. Yeah, he can put him up on Jody's back, but what good's that going to do him? He's a big horse. He's a kind of a lazy horse too. Now Trevor gives him a little bit of a tap there. What does he do? Move on. I think he was just in a bit of a blind switch. I'm going to take a chance with him and hope that this one gets Dewey off the Ophir for the year.
Yeah, I just couldn't get out until it was too late, unfortunately. So Seriously Hanover, I think, is going to be a factor in this spot. Garner going towards Pike Branch. Charlie loses Travis, though, as Travis shows up with one to be a big star. Race 8 on the program will kick off the late pick 5, races 8 through 12. 9th race, no show wagering in here. Can Brew Hanover go down to defeat? They all lose eventually, but Brew Hanover is hoping it is not tonight. And this one has been so good as of late. I'm curious to see if Tarasi can bounce back. I think Odds on Capitalism has stayed in the great form that we've seen for the Barras outfit in here. Jabberwocky, that's kind of the question mark horse for me, because when he's really, really good, he can beat this field.
Yes, 100%. You know, I mean, that's and he's in a spot right now too where, you know, I mean, he does have the ability to get out of there. Yeah. And he's got a driver on him that can get them out of there, Trevor. So I mean, if they're sick and tired of kind of getting, you know, caught towards the back or whatever, and, you know, some bad flow, and then they're coming 25-2 in his last 26-3 the time before, just to finish 2nd and 4th in there. I think at some point they're going to try try to stay close. And this might be the time because Jabberwocky, he can cut it too. So he doesn't, fast fractions are not going to tire this horse out. He's had some good racing. I think Trevor's in a good spot, but throwing him in for third, I just find it tough to go against this horse now. So let's take a look at this replay. To me, the only weakness I see in Brew Hanover is this drifting out.
Right, and that was going to be a question for you. Is it going to cost him 1 week, do you think?
One of these weeks, it's going to cost him. And maybe this will be the week. One of these horses is going to get in on his back. They're going to stay with him at the head of the lane, and he's going to start to drift, and they're going to get a free shot up the inside, you know, and one of them's going to beat him. You know, at some point, this drift will cost this horse, but he is just so fast right now that he can overcome the drift, and they just let him drift, you know what I mean? Because his momentum keeps, even though he's moving out, he's still sailing forward, you know? Louis had a good chance at him, I think, last week, you know what I mean? He got him in a good spot, but like I said, he's not slowing down. Yeah, he's drifting, he's giving them the whole inside, but here comes Jabberwocky on the outside. To me, who's got the livest legs? Jabberwocky.
Yeah.
So one of these times, he's going to get close, going to stay close to Brew Hanover, and tonight might be that night.
Tarasi grinded out a nice victory a couple of starts. We'll see if he's able to bounce back with a bit of a better performance here tonight. That's a possibility. You know, you can never discount American history either. I realize like his form has kind of tailed off a little bit, but all of a sudden James is driving here today because Louis is going to go towards odds on capitalism, so he's capable. Poseidon Sealster always seems to be a check getter on this class, but just doesn't win as often as you would like.
No, but still, like, I mean, I played against Write Me a Rose. I didn't use Write Me a Rose, Poseidon Sealster, and American history. So how deep is this field?
I know.
I didn't even use those horses. Wow.
Let's get to the 10th now on the program, and we have one in this race making his North American debut, and that is the Masked Crusader. And I believe Davis will drive that one. Nice to see Billy pick up a win on yesterday's program.
It was, yeah, and it was a nice win.
Yeah, it was a good number as well. And you've got Warwi for Laura, who has had the double qualifier coming in for Frank Baker Jr., and same double qualifier for II Captain Deo. Now, I think II Captain Deo is going to have a really nice season this year. I think this is a quality animal in here. Now, ideally, do you want to face older horse in your first start off the bench? Probably not, but the fact he's still eligible for a condition event, I think, is a plus.
Yeah, for sure. And I agree with you, too. I think that this is going to be a big year for this fellow, you know, and hopefully for Gary Mernert it is, and for Gino Toscani. You know, nobody has supported our business any better in the last 30 years than Gino Toscani, you know what I mean? I love seeing Gino Toscani in the winner's circle because he deserves it. But yeah, II Captain Dale, let's look at this last qualifier. And this is, we're talking 10 days in between too. This wasn't a 7-day boom, boom, you know? So I mean, I love the way that he did it both times. Both times with McClure, you know, the first time he comes the last quarter in 26-2, back half in 55 seconds, an easy winner. Now this one, he comes a back half in 53-2. So already we're starting to see a little bit of improvement.
Getting into him too.
Right, and that's the part that I like. That's why I wanted to show this one. I didn't want to see him coming to the wire with a bow in his neck. You know, I wanted to see him tired out, and he's tiring him out. He's making him pace, and I think that is really going to suit him well. There's no secret that Captain Treacherous can sometimes be very lazy kind of horses, and I think a lazy horse needs to be raced like that every now and again to set them up. I think that he has set this horse up to capitalize first start.
See, to me, like, I've never driven a horse. You've driven way more horse than I have. But to have that type of power when you ask, like, that's got to be a really cool feeling.
It is. It's an incredible feeling. It is, you know. I mean, I couldn't even explain it to you, you know, especially when you haven't. I'll tell you one of the ones that really got me the biggest one time is when one time I was here for baby races and I wasn't supposed to baby race this horse, and the connections came to me and they said, hey, would you mind sticking around and baby racing this horse for you? You know, first time he'd ever been behind the gate. I'm like, yeah. Sure, why not? You know, I was here anyway.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I had a stop. I always carry a stopwatch, but I had my stopwatch and I caught his back half. And I mean, the way that he did it, I'm like, oh my goodness, it was Dreamfair Vogel.
Really?
Never had seen him before. And I mean, this horse ended up being a really, really nice horse. Made well over $1 million, you know, sub 150 mark, you know, beat Art Major in the Provincial Cup at the end of their 3-year-old campaign, you know, really, really deep horse. But yeah, what a feeling they give you when you know it's there and you weren't really expecting it. My goodness.
And did you get to drive with that horse right off the bat?
Yeah.
See, you helped out. Look what happened.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. One of the few times there.
11th race will start off the late double. And I can see what Team Hensley's doing here with Caviar and Crackers, because often she leaves herself a little bit too much work to do. But the one thing that Eddie's done consistently in 3 of the last 4 races, I would say, with the exception of the post-10 start, is he's tried to get her more involved to leave her with less work to do, and it almost worked last time out.
Yeah, that's the thing, eh? Like, you know, you get, she drops down into non-winners of 8 or non-winners of 4. She can sit 15th and still beat them. But when you start to come up in class and the rest of these, you know, can still stoke a last quarter in 27 seconds and you're coming from 8 lengths out of it, you can't do it. So I agree with you. I think that Eddie has really, you know, kind of changed the things up a little bit with her, keeping her a little bit close so that that big kick doesn't have to be quite as, you know, quite as deep in here. I'm going to go Grit and Grace. We're not going to show you a replay in here, but I'm telling of all the horses, and this is going to be a really big ask for Grit and Grace. This is a big step up for a 4-year-old, taking on horses like She's Got It All, who could easily come up with a big effort. Raptors 1. There's a 7 and a 6-year-old there. Grit and Grace, you know, is she 4? You know, I'm not sure when she was born. You know, if she was an April or a May foal, she might only still be 3 years old, you know. But she's really, really impressed me. So Grit and Grace is the way that I'm going to go with this one here. Big ask, but I think that she's more than capable of doing it.
And she dueled the eventual winner last time, but Angus Torrey Hanover raced great last night against tougher competition as well.
Yeah,
so that's
for
a great positive. Race number 12 to wrap it up in here. We have a field of 10. Andy Moore, I don't know how many horses he's got, but it's nice when you can put 2 on the trailer instead of just 1. So he's got Regal Bub, and he's got Ben Looking. That's the one I'm going to land on in here. Rose Run AJ on the board, odds of 3-1, looking to extend that winning streak to 3.
Yeah, I'm going to play against Rose Run AJ tonight. You know, I have been using him in a couple of those other ones, you know. I don't know if I used him up on top last week. I don't think I did, but I did definitely use him that last time in the 20 claimer because the start before that, when he finished 4th in the 20 claimer, he kind of rang the bell that day. Hey, this is my kind of class, you know. So you could pretty well go that way. Ben Looking trot him in for 3rd. I agree with Jeff. You know, really, really nice kind of a horse, this guy. Honolulu Vacation is the way that I'm going to go with this one. I used him hard last week. Or McClure drove him in his last start. I thought it was a good effort. Going to come right back to him. Has an inside post compared to last week where he had the 8-hole. He did race him out of there. You know, he came out of there with him, quarter and 26 and 4. Maybe it did a little bit of damage to him, but he's got the inside. He's got a nice horse on the inside of him too, 4x4, who I have in for 2nd. So I'm hoping that Bobby's going to be able to keep this bird close and then have a little bit of kick on the end of it.
I think he's been playing catch up with this horse too. You know, you had the vet scratch to the lameness, then you're sick, and you know, I think you're kind of you're trying to catch up a little bit, and that was a much better race last time out, so I can see why you're gravitating towards that one. Okay, plays of the night, as we're about 3 minutes away from post time for our opener here tonight at Woodbine Mohawk Park. And as per usual, the Hall of Famer will lead things off. And let's see, you were very early heavy in the program yesterday. You had a lot of early races as your plays of the nights. And I mean, I might as well go home after race 8 tonight.
Okay, so Rocky J is going to be worth a look. We can get him out of the way after race number 1. Beat the favorite's going to be Gouda 1 in race number 3. I all in is going to be Fortify. I love the drop down on him. And my Waples watch is going to be Seriously Hanover. I think that this horse is just slowly getting a lot better for Dwayne Marfisi. And, you know, maybe this is going to be our week.
Here's a look at mine. What do I have? I can't even remember what I sent in. We're going to take a look at it right now. And my debut factor is going to be Hello Darkness based on the video evidence that you showed us. Sergeant Slaughter, he was a fun wrestler to watch back in the day.
Wasn't he? Yes, he was.
He was cool.
What was the Cobra Clutch?
Yeah, he was cool. And the black sunglasses.
Yeah.
My 3-year-old to watch is I Captain Dale, and my beat the favorite is going to be Caviar and Crackers. I hope we don't go off as the favorite with that one, so I'm going to try and beat the favorite there with Caviar and Crackers. So race 11. Race 6, 8, 10, and 11. Xander, that's where Garnett's going to go with his spot play, making the 3-year-old debut. Johnny Rallis, Nazare for him, and Wind Blowing looking for the Hattie. And that is where Ghislaine Paquette's going to go. I wonder if Ghislaine is a fan of Les Habitants, the Montreal Canadiens who make it into the playoffs as well. So Ghislaine Paquette. I know you're not a huge hockey fan, Randy, but the cool thing is 5 Canadian teams made it into the Stanley Cup, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, for sure. You know, I haven't been watching nearly as much hockey as I probably should have. But one thing I wanted to throw at you: how deep are the Leafs this year?
I had this conversation last night with Bob
Isn't
McClure.
Goaltending your biggest?
It's defense and
hurdle?
goaltending.
Right.
I think they're better in both areas.
Good.
But they find ways. You know, they're like those horses that will qualify in the morning. You're like, man,
I got him.
This horse is like never been better.
Yeah.
You go out and you get locked in, or I don't know, you go too fast or whatever. Who knows? But
There's an excuse.
always. As Bob and I said yesterday when I was talking to him about this, I said, for like 2 weeks afterwards, we're like, never again, never following the team again, and you get right back on the bench.
Yeah, there you go. You're a blue and whiter by heart. You bleed it.
Blue and white. Yeah.
Bleed blue and white.
Okay, our wonderful producer, Mr. Javon, says we have to take a break, so we'll do just that. When we come back, we'll take a look at the opener on a 12-pack here from Woodbine Mohawk Park.